Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Earlene Avalon, and I'm a teaching professor and the program lead of our healthcare programs here in the College of Professional Studies. I am also the director of the Lowell Institute School. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to attend this session.
Oh.
I want to also thank Dr. Lynda Hodgson for organizing and facilitating today's discussion. Many thanks to Mary McCarthy and Natalie Bowers for all of their support in bringing us together today. The Lowell Institute School is part of Northeastern University's College of Professional Study, with more than 50 years of experience aligning higher education with professional aspirations. The LIS, as we call it for short, provides students with scholarships and opportunities to increase their level of engagement. Just so everyone is aware, we have numerous programs within the Lowell Institute School. These programs include numerous bachelor's degree completion programs, including those in analytics, biological science, biotechnology, digital communications and media, healthcare administration, health science, IT, which we're here for today, megatronics, post-bac pre-medical studies, project management, and last but not least, our psychology program. We hope that you enjoy this Mentorship Matters series on information technology, and I'm going to turn it over to Professor Hodgson.
Hi, everybody. So most of you may have seen my name before. I'm assuming that I'm getting mostly IT, possibly some analytics students, maybe. I am the Lynda Hodgson. I'm the lead for the IT program. So I am essentially in charge of the curriculum, and I oversee, what goes on in the classrooms and help shepherd students through. I'm not the advisor. I'm more like the advisor to the student advisor. So I kind of, help them with navigating students through to graduation. And the next, we only have apparently one of our mentors has the flu and was unable to attend. Another one has not quite gotten here. I still don't see him. He may show up hopefully in a little bit. But in the meantime, we have Tim Conway, who is one of our instructors, and some of you may have had him for classes. I don't know. But we're going to start off by letting Tim introduce himself and tell you guys a little bit about his background.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Lynda. Appreciate it. And thanks, everyone on the call for attending, and appreciate you inviting me to participate in this. Really looking forward to it. So as Lynda mentioned, adjunct lecturer here at Northeastern since 2016. Teach a myriad of classes, obviously in the technology space. Professionally, I'm the CIO at Amwell, which is a healthcare software company based here in Boston. And prior to Amwell, I've had different leadership roles for primarily software companies. And then prior to that, I worked for Hartford Financial, which is a large insurance company in Hartford, Connecticut, ran a couple of IT departments. Prior to that, did a few jobs specific to e-commerce, spent a lot of time in direct-to-consumer technologies, et cetera. And then prior to that, I was actually a structural engineer. I actually went to school at Worcester Poly as a structural engineer, did that for a few years, and then switched over to high tech. And then in parallel, got my MBA from Babson College. So yeah, glad to be here, and thanks again for having me.
Okay. So I think the plan is to run this meeting kind of informally. We can either open up the floor to questions, or I do have some questions that I've already come up with, the kinds of things that I think are typical for students, the kinds of questions that I have had from students in the past. So, why don't we first find out what our students, we've got several of them, a few here, what kind of questions they may have. And if we don't have a whole lot of questions, I'll, kick off with some of mine. So if you want to raise your hand or turn on your microphone and introduce yourselves and ask a question, that'd be great. No takers? That's not very unusual for students. It's like, I don't want to be first. Okay, well, the first question that I tend to hear from students is, what are the key employment opportunities, okay, that are out there? What should I be thinking about in terms of my career? Because IT is very broad. So from the inside, essentially, what are the big opportunities that are opening up in IT? Tim, you got some insight into that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. Yeah, so Lynda, to your point, there's a lot under the technology umbrella. So a couple different thoughts. So one is technology is everywhere now. So I alluded to software companies earlier. Obviously, that's their core competency. However, every industry, every company from small cap to large cap is leveraging technology. You just have to. You won't survive as a company if you're not leveraging technology. So there's technology jobs everywhere, right? Across industries, small companies, large companies, et cetera. Even institutions like Northeastern and government institutions, right? Everyone's leveraging technology. So that's a good thing. And then within that, there's a lot of different roles within the technology umbrella. Very technical roles, such as being a data scientist or a developer, all the way to a business analyst where you're gathering requirements, or a project manager where you're managing a project, or a tester where you're running QA. So as far as technology competence, you don't have to be like heavy into technology as far as acumen to work in the technology-based organization. So that's another benefit, is that there's jobs that span across the spectrum of being a heavy technologist all the way through more management. So for example, my journey, I wrote some code, I took a couple programming, I'm dating myself. I took a couple programming classes in high school and college, basic, COBOL, et cetera. And then as I mentioned, I went into structural engineering, and at the time, client server was a hot technology. So I took a client server certificate program at Worcester Poly in Waltham, and that enabled me to jump into technology fairly easily. But my path is more on the management path. I've never wrote a line of code professionally. I started off as a project manager, then moved into general management, and then continued that path. So just wanted to share a little bit of context around my journey, where it wasn't a heavy technology journey, it was more on the management side. As far as hot trends, obviously, data science is huge. So you're going to hear the term data scientists. Those are individuals, again, the acumen varies from being a heavy technologist through more of an analyst. But data science is huge. The amount of data being generated by companies is just astonishing, right? It's hard to comprehend. And companies are really struggling to do what they need to do with data, right? So there's all this data. It's okay, how do you make sense out of it? And then how do you use that data to drive business results? Even institutions, academia, government, they're also capturing a ton of third-party data, second-party data, first-party data. So the data science field is very, very strong right now, and there's a lot of demand. Number two, obviously AI. You can't turn the corner without hearing AI. AI's been around actually for a while. I think the latest buzzword is generative AI, but it's here to stay, and there's a lot of investments being made. So that's obviously a hot field. Human-computer interactions, so visual design, how people interact with technology, and not just necessarily a smartphone or laptop. It could be an airplane kiosk, it could be your car, it could be your coffee machine. So there's a lot of investments, and you hear the term user experience, or UX. That's short for user experience. A lot of investments being made because organizations have to provide technology where it's easy for the end users and consumers to do business with that company. So I would say those are the three hot topics, right, or hot fields. But there's always a need for your traditional developer, project manager, or QA, et cetera.
Yeah. Okay, great insight. I think just as you're speaking, I will note that you're talking about data scientists and AI, and we have just implemented concentration in analytics that supports that particular area. So if you haven't checked out that option in your IT program, take a look. And the other thing I might add is cyber, not because I get a lot of questions, and my nephew just graduated from UVA with a degree in cybersecurity and got a job like that, just like bang.
Yeah, Lynda, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I missed that one, so sorry about that. Yes, cyber's huge. So in my current role, I also have responsibility for information security, and it depends how you look at it. I have to spend a lot of time there just because of the threat. And in the healthcare industry, that's the number one target for cyber criminals. So yes, yeah. Cyber's huge. So yes, Lynda, thank you for jumping in, and I mistakenly left that one out.
No, that's fine. But and cyber, just like the other areas of IT, there's a range even within the various disciplines, because you've got those more management and people oriented things, and then you've got the real techie, coding and anything, any place you go in IT is going to have, kind of like, where is your talent? Where's what you like to do? Do you like working with people? Then think about the management side. And, if you prefer to keep your head, in front of the keyboard typing away, you like to do that 8 hours a day. Cool. Do the techie stuff. Just lots of opportunities. You need to understand what you enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So what courses or skills should you highlight on an interview? I know people always are asking me, can you look at my resume and see if I did a good job? So Tim, if you're hiring somebody, what is it that you look for in a good resume? Are you especially for somebody who's just gotten a degree?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because the resume, unfortunately, I recommend that people have different versions of resumes. I know that's extra work and extra maintenance. However, it makes a big difference, because depending on what that company or organization is looking for, they're going to have a specific set of requirements, qualifications, etc. So based on that particular role that you might be interested in, your resume probably will need some massaging to fit what that organization is looking for. As far as skills, I recommend for entry level, try to do is internships, even like freelance, like whatever you decide you want to do, like, and that can change, by the way, and we can get to that later around career path and setting career goals, because I think that's really important. But if you have your eyes set on a particular role, even if you're like in high school and you know what you want to do, or early in college, start to go out and search for that role, and you're going to get what you'll find is that you're going to get a very consistent list of requirements and qualifications that role is needed. And then you say, okay, it looks like these top 5, top 10 things everyone's looking for. Then you figure out, okay, through your education and through internship work or freelance work, hone those skills. Because that way, when you go to present yourself, not only can you highlight those skills, but you can align some relevant experience to that skill. Because that's how you're going to differentiate yourself. Because, coming out of college, there's thousands of kids who have taken those classes that are going to say, oh yeah, I've taken this class, this stuff. So it all comes down to differentiation, and that's really the key. And then the second thing I'll mention is, work your network as much as possible. I have had in my career 10 jobs, give or take. All but one have been through a connection or a colleague or a friend. So 9 out of my 10 jobs I've gotten through someone I happen to know from college or through work, what have you. So can't stress enough, build out your network, keep it breathing, and because unfortunately, that's sometimes a tipping point is having a colleague or friend or someone that you know in that organization who can get you to either the hiring manager or the recruiter. So even myself, in my career journey, there's been times where I've been looking for a job, and if you see a role, the first thing I do is, okay, who do I know at that company? And then I reach out to them and say, hey, interested in this opportunity. Do you either know the hiring manager and or recruiter? If so, can you get me in touch with them? Because when you're applying, these companies are getting thousands, and especially now with LinkedIn, they're getting bombarded with applications, and there's no way they can go through it. There's no way humans can go through it. So they're leveraging, now that actually organizations are leveraging AI to help parse, resumes and applications. And that's something that I advise students also to do, is go out on YouTube. There's a lot of classes on how to maneuver through LinkedIn and how to distinguish yourself, because there's a lot of tricks nowadays that will help you get found in a search better or whatnot. So definitely spend the time to learn how to navigate and use LinkedIn. Again, there's a lot of paid for resources, but I would start with the free ones out on the social media networks.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got into it. LinkedIn is your first stop. I mean, look at the way other people who have a job similar to one you want are presenting themselves.
Yeah.
And get that out there. So yeah.
I think when the other.
Go ahead. I was going to say, when somebody says, "Here's my resume. Is it good? Is that what I need?" That's the first thing I do. I said, "Look, I can take a look at a generic resume, but yeah, you got to tailor it for the job."
Yeah.
You're dead on there.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that I'll speak for myself, but I'm assuming others feel the same way. With our society nowadays of everything's quick, and like I don't want to read, like outside of reading a book during leisure time, I don't want to read 5 pages of stuff, right? I want bullets. I want something like an executive summary. So in your resume, highly recommend that you have a executive summary at the top that really drives home your value proposition, your value, because over the years of hiring, for decades now, I'm never going to spend the time to read through a 4-page resume. I'm just not. And I know a lot of colleagues who won't either. So, keep it short, keep it simple. I've now seen there's companies that have AI avatars that you can do like a video resume. Those are very powerful, where you can, 30 seconds. And what's good about those is that you can see how the person presents themselves and how they speak, and it gives you a better flavor of who that person is. So I know that we're probably early stages on that, but I'm seeing more and more where people are starting to do those versus a 5-page PDF.
Yeah, that's not.
So
now you're going to have the issue of people going to interviews and doing video resumes, and it's all going to be AI generated, and somebody else shows up for the job.
well, that I know that's crazy. That there's actually what was the name of the company where I mentioned the AI avatar, where you send in just a snippet of your voice and then like a video of yourself, and then it takes that and it actually is AI generated, which is a little bit scary, but that's the world we're in, unfortunately. The one thing I will say, I'm not a resume expert. My resume is not, has never been great, so I don't want to come across as a resume expert. There are services out there that can help, but there's so much free stuff online now where you can get tips and tricks on how to make your resume better. So I advise leveraging those free resources before doing anything paid. I just don't see the value in paying for something like that.
I just want to interrupt it. Megan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. So I obviously appreciate you guys giving advice for people just starting their careers, but like for me, I've had a career. I'm just in the process of transitioning career fields. So I've worked with the DoD for the last 15 years. I'm going for a bachelor's in IT, and I want to do the master's program in program or project management. And what my question in relation to the resumes is how do you best tie in experience that you may have that's not necessarily tech focused, but that you can still apply in a tech field?
Yeah, Megan, great question. And I'm glad you asked that, because that was something that I wanted to talk about today. I use the term transferable skills. You'll be surprised that there's a set of skills that you've learned over your career that I put money on it that a subset of those will directly be relevant to a job that you're looking for in the technology field, whatnot. I mentioned earlier, I made a career switch from structural engineering to high tech in the late 90s.
Your mic cut out.
I can't hear Tim. I wasn't sure if it was just me.
Now it looks like he's frozen.
No, he's
I see
working
him
out.
moving. Yeah.
Yep. Sure.
So while we wait for Tim to fix the microphone, Lynda, maybe I can ask you a question about your career path in the IT field. I know in addition to being a professor that you've worked in the industry for some time. So maybe you can share with the group kind of your career path and what made you interested in the field of IT.
Okay, so this starts back when I was in elementary school and decided that I wanted to work for Disney or be an astronaut. And what did they both have in common? Computers, because Disney had, animatronics.
Animation. Yeah.
So that's how I kind of first got into it. It's like, well, if I want to do that, go in those directions, I need to learn about computers. And so I started here. Tim's coming in.
Yep. I just submit him into the room.
Yeah. So anyway, I went to college. I didn't finish college because I was a stupid teenager who got married instead. Went to work for a bank as a clerk, and they opened up an opportunity to learn how to program as a trainee, learn on the job.
Yeah.
Yep, that's for me. Ended up having, they trained me to program in COBOL, of all things. And Tim, I thought Tim was here. Did he not?
Oh, no, he's here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
I just
Okay,
didn't
sorry
see
about
her all the time. Okay. Anyway, they trained me. I had a long career programming, and then went into systems analysis and went into the management side, and became an assistant vice president at Capital One.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And after several years of being a techie person, I decided I was really a people person. So I switched and kind of went in that, more, systems analysis, requirements definition, and then management types of positions until I went to grad school and got a PhD, and I've been teaching ever since.
Wow. I must say to the group, Lynda and I have worked together for about maybe close to 10 years. And this is the first time I'm actually hearing Lynda's story. I knew you worked in industry, but I did not realize just the diverse level of experiences that you had, and also working in different places as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope that resonates with some students who might be attending today's session as well. is that you think you might go down one path, but when an opportunity presents, it might take you on a completely different path. And no matter where you are in your life, you can always get more training, more education, to kind of fulfill your own kind of professional and career goals. So, all right, Lynda, I'm going to turn it back over to you so you can, I know Tim was answering a question, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, he was kind of in the middle. Tim, did you have more to add?
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. Did you hear my point about transferable skills?
You had just transitioned from high tech to,
yeah,
that's when you cut out.
Yeah, so yeah, and I'll keep it quick because we can. So yeah, what's really key is transferable skills. So when I made my switch, what I did is I wrote down, okay, here's all the skills I've gained over my current, role. Which ones of those will translate over to switching over? So project management, cost benefit analysis, consulting skills. I mentioned, CBA, but I was doing some financials, so that transferred. So you'll be surprised how many skills that you have that can be transferred over.
Yeah.
And then what you have to figure out is, okay, if there's probably going to be a gap, right, of the role that you want. So you got to really address that gap through whether it's education or just having a frank conversation with the hiring manager. Say, look, I know I have a gap here. How critical is that gap? And sometimes you're like, you know what, not a big deal. We have someone on the team that can handle that. Because sometimes these job descriptions, they just, recruiters just cut and paste from others, and there might be things in there that really aren't as important as others. So I think just being open and honest with a recruiter and or hiring manager and having that conversation, you'll be surprised that oftentimes they'll be like, you know what, yeah, I'm not concerned about that. We really like your background, and hey, these couple of things we can get you some training or work together on it. So yeah, transferable skills is huge. And I have a running list, have it in my back pocket, and over time I add to it. And then I also add expert, intermediate, basic, and it's very powerful. And so I definitely recommend keeping like a little journey, not a journey, like a little log or a document that you have, because it's very powerful as you move down your career journey.
Yeah. And Megan, one of the things that you might find on your resume is that the big transferable skills, because I get this from my instructors and the business people that I work with, is like, what do you want us to teach your students? And they go, people skills. It's like they shout it, communication and people skills, which is something that the folks in my program who are more experienced probably already do pretty well. You've got a career, whatever the career is. You've probably developed those people skills and those communication skills more than your average, 22-year-old coming out of college. So that's what you emphasize.
Yeah.
Being a veteran and having a career, I've developed communication skills. But IT, I am definitely going toward, because just because I have them does not mean that I like using them.
Yeah,
well, that's an important thing to understand as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lynda, you bring up a really important point. People skills, or you might hear the term soft skills, right? That's a term commonly used. I would recommend like getting specific around, okay, well, what does that mean? So like in my over the years, like I've gone coaching on Tim, you got to make your executive presence better. Okay, well, what does that mean? Can I get some coaching? Can I observe someone who we consider the best at having executive presence? So executive presence is your posture, your how you dress, like how your speaking tone, your volume, your hand movement, how do you command a room, right? So when you hear people skills, soft skills, I recommend getting very specific around, okay, what do those mean, and how do I get better at them? Negotiations, working with people. Okay, well, what does that mean? How do I get better at working with people? So there's a lot of skills that you just got to drill down into and practice those. So yes, soft skills, people skills, super important. And my recommendation is just get specific on what do those mean and how do you get better at them.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, well, another question that I get is how important are those co-ops and internships in landing a job? Your first job or your next job?
Yeah, from my perspective, for the first job, very important, right? So I talked earlier about, those entry-level jobs and having, trying to have experience going in, because everyone, you have tons of students who have similar educational backgrounds. So yeah, co-op internships, huge for entry level. As you progress through, not as important, and even like someone's where they went to college, like I don't even look at that outside of entry level. I don't look at that. So I'll give a perfect example. I was at Salesforce for 10 years, and one of my big clients was Humana, which is a healthcare company down in Louisville, Kentucky. And I needed someone to manage that account. And I wanted someone local. And Louisville's not a hotbed for technologists or consultants. It's just not. It's a relatively small city and not a lot of people that work in the technology business. So I finally found someone who was pretty good. And then I got on a call with her. Her name was Amy. She said, Tim, I just need to let you know I never went to college. I said, Amy, I don't care. Like, I love your experience. Like, I don't care if you went to college or not. Now, again, she was a 20-year, she's been in the workforce for 20 years. So I'm like, Amy, I don't even care. So let's just put that aside because it doesn't matter. She's like, oh my God, thank God. Thank you for that. I'm like, so my point is, entry level, obviously, yeah, your education is important, your co-op internships, absolutely. But as you progress through, those become less relevant. Again, that's just from my perspective. I can't speak for others, but that's been my approach typically.
Okay. And it looks like Neil just got into the room. So Neil, one of our other speakers, if you could maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Hi, folks. Thanks, and I sincerely apologize for being late. This is the role of a cybersecurity professional, is that you never know what's going to come in out of the blue. Yeah, so I am a triple Husky. I went to undergrad at Northeastern way back when, starting in computer science. Switched to business information systems because I really realized I wanted to have the practical application of it and not just the back of the house. About 10 years later, I went and got my MBA, high-tech MBA from Northeastern. And that really propelled my career because it helped me continue to bridge that gap between how do you use technology and how do you leverage it to achieve business objectives and really put it to your innovative advantage. And I've been teaching at Northeastern for about 5 years in the College of Professional Studies. However, I've been a CISO for Mimecast, which is a technology company right out in Lexington, right off 128. We do email security, collaboration security, human risk, and a whole bunch of different products and security solutions all over the world. And I get to, again, leverage that back of the house experience, all that things that we do to make the technology work, as well as the going out and talking to customers and kind of helping the company achieve objectives. So it's a fun balance.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, I thought I saw a hand. Did I see a hand go up?
I was actually just hoping that folks would maybe take a moment to reflect on some of the best mentorship advice that they got along their way. Possibly maybe the most influential piece that you took, or maybe a piece of advice that you wish you had rejected, and tell us a little bit about how that went for you.
Yeah, Mary, I'll go. Some of the best advice I got was establish a career path and a career goal, and put a stake in the ground and then start marching towards it. Now, the other advice was that can change, right? So just an example, when I was at Hartford Financial running an IT department, at the time, my career goal was to become a CIO of a Fortune 50 company. And I wrote it down. I told my manager, this is my career goal. He's like, awesome, let's work towards that. as I continued down that path, running a IT organization inside a big insurance company, pretty grueling. Right here, insurance companies' core competencies, actuarial, insurance products. IT was a very tough environment to work in. So I got burnt out, quite frankly, 24/7 support, all that stuff. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna change. I don't want to become a CIO of a Fortune 50. Then I went to Salesforce. I wanted to get back involved in software companies, get back into the consulting world, et cetera. So my career goal changed at that point. And then fast forward, when I was exiting Salesforce, a former colleague of mine at Now Amos said, "Hey Tim, we're looking for a CIO. Your background is pretty relevant." So I landed in the CIO role eventually, kind of by, not mistake, but kind of not by plan or by design. So that's advice I got years ago, and I highly recommend people do that. And again, it can change, but it gives you something to aspire to. It helps you determine what the next role I should take. It helps you figure out what training you need. It helps you determine what mentors you probably want to get. So that's some advice that was very helpful.
For me, for that, I would probably say, because in technology things change so quickly, that the best advice I got from a mentor was, he always looks for 3 core skills, no matter what the application is. Are you smart? But I would say, are you a good problem solver, right? And that's no matter what career you're focused on, you have to be able to solve people's problems. And we haven't even started talking about ChatGPT, right? But then, do you have good communication skills? Are you a team player? Can you work well under pressure? And then, do you have the ability to learn over time? Because again, things change so quickly. So my career advice would be not to focus on any specific landmark, because the industry and the landscape is going to change so quickly. But if you have those things and show that you're passionate and interested about them, and then as those opportunities arise, you say yes to them and you build that into your DNA, then that's what I look for, is folks who have been curious and applied that curiosity to no matter what comes to them, and then made success out of it.
Yeah. And I would say that, I grew up, or, started working back in the day. And one of my biggest challenges was not the technology as much as it was being one of very few women in an office dominated by men. And I was fortunate enough to work for another woman who was kind of in the same boat, but we networked with each other to figure out what to do when you got ignored in meetings, or when you had an idea and then the guy next to you or your boss took it to a meeting and presented it as his idea. So sometimes you need to find those people that maybe share your values, share your insights, share your problems, and not have griping sessions, because griping sessions don't help with anything, but have strategizing sessions, not only about how to deal with the obvious issues around being a woman or being some other minority, but also about what it is that you really like to do and are good at. Because, I thought for years I was going to be coding forever. And it took someone else to point out to me, Lynda, you're the one in the meeting who is really listening to not just what they say, but what they mean. You're the one that brings that back to our, to our requirements definition meetings. You're the one that asks that one little question that changes how we look at things. And once I realized that I was really pretty good at this communication stuff, which somebody else pointed out to me, then that's when I started really thinking about, well, maybe I don't have to code. Maybe I can do something, that I like and I'm apparently pretty good at. So look for those people, your bosses, your coworkers, sometimes even your employees. I had a boss once who asked me, well, she had a personality issue, with a lot of people. And, and she asked me the questions like, what is it? I said, well, first of all, when you're in a meeting, never look down your nose, because she did it all the time. So I gave her advice. I'm her worker, not her, her employee, not her boss. She actually listened to how she was presenting herself in meetings, but I will give it to her. She had the courage to ask me. So, talk to the people you work for, the people that you employ, the people you work with. Don't be afraid to ask for tips, hints,
Hey, Lynda, if I may, one of the things in security we talk a lot about is called influence without authority, because a lot of the folks won't have that authority, right? And there's a book that I recommend. It's called The 360-Degree Leader, which is how can I manage myself when I'm not the leader, but manage my leaders up, learn across, and there's some myths that kind of can get busted, so folks can kind of exhibiting like the things you're saying in personal leadership as well as ground up.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, and then I did have, and we've mentioned it before, but one of the other things that I had kind of taken a note of is, what is AI doing to our career paths? I definitely want an answer to this question.
I'll be curious, because I think this also applies to other disciplines, not necessarily just IT. Like, what's the impact of AI on so many fields?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hog the microphone. I'm working for a company building AI tools. So actually, that's right after this, we're going into a session on the next model we're building. I think to me, it goes back to be a problem solver, because ChatGPT really is going to have a good use case for depth of knowledge, but not the application and solutioning around that. You still need to know what questions to ask it, and when it gives you wrong answers, which is quite frequent, and how to apply that, because it's the problem application and domain knowledge space. Like, you have to know about the domain to ask the right questions, then pull in the data or manipulate it. So it's a great kind of data manipulation tool. So from a career perspective, it's going to continue to be that, and it's how can I solve problems, how can I do that in a team environment, and how can I align to business needs. That's my take.
Yeah, no, Neil's spot on. Just to add to that, I think it depends. I think it depends on what business you're in, what industry you're in, your role, etc. So I think it's still to be determined. My advice to everyone is to embrace AI. Don't resist it. I would embrace it and figure out how can you use it, to Neil's point, to help solve problems for your customers, for your company, or for yourself. Learn it, depending on what role you're in. Embrace it and figure out how can it help me, how can it help my manager, how can it help my function, my organization. But embrace it, right? It's not going away. I think organizations and individuals who resist technology, unfortunately, will probably be left behind. So learn it, embrace it, and figure out how to solve problems with it. Again, but as far as like specific to roles and jobs, I think time will tell.
Yep. And Mary, you had a question about hearing from the students about their experiences. Let's see.
Yeah, we're here for you guys, right? So
yeah.
What are the reoccurring obstacles that folks might be experiencing? Is it not having enough experience with a given language or a given task? Or is it really just making connections, where Tim touched on having an ally on the inside of any job search that can really leverage you?
Yeah. Is it technology? Is it process? You're just not familiar with how businesses kind of operate, or how to kind of go through the hiring cycle? Yeah.
It's balancing a full-time job with a 4-class load.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, because you do have to prioritize.
And that's
That's
where I
what
would
we have
say,
some people here on the 10-year plan.
well, I would say that's where AI can kind of be helpful. I have ADHD, and that's because that's kind of the role. So using AI as a task manager is to help kind of be more efficient. It's not solving your problems for you. Don't let you become lazy, but as a way to kind of more effectively operationalize managing both spheres. I would recommend that. And
As
it's not
someone who
Yeah.
also has ADHD, I have very often fed my to-do lists into ChatGPT in order for them to prioritize them for me.
Good thinking.
And there's some great other tools like that. So Letterly for taking notes, right? And then framing those notes into a to-do list, and then tick to manage it, right? So I think that's the
Yeah, Megan, though, all good points. I think also this, I know it sounds trivial and basic, but just like having like a schedule for yourself or like a project plan for yourself, like, hey, from Monday from X to X, I'm working, right? Monday from 7 to 9, I'm gonna focus on my family. From 9 to 11, I'm gonna focus on my job search, right? Tuesday, again, trivial, basic. However, I use at one point where I was MBA part-time, working full-time, looking for a new job, etc. So very overwhelming, but what I started to do is just map out my week and kind of stay true to the plan. Obviously, there can be bumps in the road if work throws you a curveball, etc. But planning out your time and sticking to that plan can help. It's not going to solve all your problems, but it does help.
Yeah. I see some more hands. That's good. Solange, I think your hand was up first.
Yes,
Did I get the
hi.
name
Can
right?
you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, you said my name perfectly, actually. Thank you. So I wanted to respond to I'm in transition of careers right now. I am very much a social worker, case management type of career person. This past year, someone said, you seem like you would be like a very good business analyst. Maybe you should go for IT. And I was like, what? Like, that's not, what are you talking about? What does that mean? Like, I'm a people person. I don't know what we're talking about. But somehow I stumbled across this and now I want to do it. So I'm back in school for this, but this is not really my world. And I feel like I'm having a hard time navigating that. Prior to COVID, when things were actually in person, I was able to network a little bit better and, know people and see who's in the door for things. And I'm having a really hard time doing that because as of right now, my professional circle are amongst social workers and people who do human services work and social services work. So my fear is when I apply to jobs, and yes, I have transferable skills, I fear they still see a social worker try, and it's a little scary for me at this point trying to do that. And I've been doing this work for like 8 years now. So I think that's where I'm a little stuck.
I would say play to your strengths. So there's lots of folks in security who need folks who can relate to people because lots of us don't, and to do awareness and training and other enablement. And there's aspects where I need somebody who's an expert on that I can delegate to. So everybody's got a superpower, and I would say your superpower is not just having it in one field, it's pivoting. It's the A plus the B, and that's where like the folks getting their MBA and stuff, I came from this field, but now I've got this level of or layer of stuff on top of it, which means I can be more effective than just someone who came from that one. So don't discount that. I would say highlight it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple thoughts. So, sounds like you are a people person, and the business analyst role is very dependent on being a people person and communication skills. So that's a good fit. The other suggestion, and I'm assuming there's some, I would believe there has to be, is like business analyst community groups. So, depending on the role that you're in, there's, locally, I'm not sure where you reside, but typically there's communities and groups that you can join, and you can start on LinkedIn, and then oftentimes these groups, get together in person as well, whether it's for a seminar or dinner or what have you. So I'm pretty sure there has to be like BA communities, both in person and online, that you can join, and I highly recommend that because your network will expand, a lot. So definitely recommend that too.
And I'll put in a plug for the PMI and the local PMI chapter, because a lot of those folks, not all of them, but there's a fairly significant number of folks in there that are IT folks. And they've got events and things where you can do some networking, and along with the, business analysis and, check meetups, simple things like that.
Yeah. One other thought is there might be like software companies that provide capabilities to the social worker industry. So maybe that's again, I'm not too familiar with that, but I'm
or even
guessing,
just HR in general.
HR, yeah. Because being in the software industry for quite some time now, I've put a big premium on hiring people from that particular industry.
Right.
So I've been in healthcare primarily, FinServ healthcare over the last 15 years. So we specifically went after people from the healthcare industry. So their technology acumen probably wasn't where we wanted to be, but their industry acumen was so strong, it actually, they ended up doing better than the individuals who are stronger technology wise, but industry, they were kind of, not where they needed to be. So just another angle to look at.
And Jalen, you have your hand up?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay? So my question was surrounding, Tim, you mentioned kind of that you, for lack of better words, fell into your goal of being a CIO. How do you guys, if you guys could all kind of speak to the transition from being like in your early associate roles into your more senior roles? Because I feel like that's kind of where I am. Where I'm an associate, I've been an associate IT professional for some time now, and it seems like trying to get to that more senior level is very difficult. I don't know if it's just from competition or lack of knowledge or skills or whatever, but can you guys kind of speak to how you guys were able to do that?
Yeah, for sure, Jalen. Some advice: be bold. What I mean by that is, and I did this myself, others as well that I know, be very bold about where you want to go and make people aware of that. So like when you're, with your manager, when you highly recommend sitting down with your manager and having a career conversation, saying, hey, manager, I want to become you someday, assuming you would like that role. Make it very clear to them. Oftentimes people respond very well. I think a lot of times people are afraid to make that statement because they might ruffle some feathers. It's usually the opposite. They're like, hey, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking for a successor. Like I don't want to do this role either. I'm looking to move to a different role. So I need to groom someone to take my role in a year or two. So make that clear, right? Get mentors. A lot of organizations now have mentoring programs. Get a few mentors within the organization and outside the organization, and just make it known to people that, hey, I want to be this next. And ask them for advice. Hey, what are my gaps? What do I need to work on? And oftentimes people love to help. They really do, right? They're going to lean in and give you some advice. So again, be bold, document it, write it down, what you want to do, and sit down with your manager and have that conversation. And then build that internal and external mentoring circle and have that same conversation. And most likely it's going to help propel you to, getting that promotion or that next level of responsibility.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'd say it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about continuing to solve problems and showing business alignment ultimately, right? It's not just about the technology. Do you mind if I share something real quick? I think this has been really helpful for me as I've been mentoring folks. I don't have the share permission, but it's this concept called Ikigai. And it's why one of my leaders sat down with me to, if I can, I don't have the share button, and I think it's one of those, who's the host?
Mary, that might be you. I don't have an option on
Can you give him share?
The concept is called Ikigai, though, Ikigai, and it's a Japanese concept of doing what the world loves, doing what the world needs, sorry, doing what you love, doing what the world needs, doing what you're good at, and doing what you can get paid for. So if you find the thing that's the intersection of all those, because I love cybersecurity, I'm good at it because I've had all those different experiences, the world needs that, and is well paying, so that if you focus your career on those things, and if you love what you do, the success I feel will naturally come, because it reflects to those leaders that want to promote you, because you're genuinely enthused about it, because it's kind of hitting your why. So people ask you, what do you do? I would go back and say, why do you do it? Find the things that really drive and motivate you. So the person who said they were worked in social services, because obviously you like people, so that's your why, and that's going to persist no matter what field you go into. And I feel like that would be representative of and carry you as your superpower.
Neil, can you please drop the name in the chat? So our apologies.
No,
trying to
no
figure out the share.
actually, we just moved off of Teams back onto Zoom because of that. Here we go. That's a great.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
This is wonderful. I know we're just about time. So Lynda, do you want to offer some parting words before? And hopefully everyone has access to the chat so you can see different resources that have been dropped in there for you during this conversation.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the last things I will say is if you haven't looked at the chat, please do so, because there are some good things in here. You know, sometimes we don't have that old multitasking thing, looking at chat and paying attention to the speaker is like, eh. But anyway, there are some good things in there, so please take a look. If you are not familiar with our concentrations and our +1 opportunities, please take a look, especially at the +1s, because when you're trying to navigate careers, we talked about the breadth. One of the things you can do is kind of focus in one area in your major, and then maybe a different area with a +1 or another concentration, you know. So when you're trying to get a feel for what fits you, take a look at everything we've got to offer. And, you know, I'm constantly changing the curriculum to add stuff. So we have a new course in generative AI, which is going to be taught on the analytics side, but that's okay. That's good. You know, you can use that in your program as well. So I highly recommend that. Good cybersecurity stuff for that area. Systems analysis classes that are, you know, that's a must. But yeah, and don't feel free to send me an email saying, hey, you know, this is what I want to be, and I don't see classes that directly address the kinds of skills that I need. That's good information for me to have as I plan for curriculum changes of the future. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Lynda, Tim, and Neil, for sharing such great insights today. I've learned so much. I got a couple of tabs open with the attachments that you all sent. Again, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom. And for the students on the call today, please make note of the names of our panelists. And if you have problems getting in touch with anyone, please reach out to Lynda. She has all the contact information. So thank you again, and we hope that you enjoyed this latest series of Mentorship Matters. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks to Neil and Tim especially. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Lynda.
Mm-hmm. I'll stick to the bitter end just in case there's another last question.
See you later.